This is from Shams Charania, who, of course, is the newsbreaker for The Athletic as well as Stadium. He said sources with knowledge of Kyrie's mindset. Oh, boy. Who do we think, like, sources with knowledge of Kyrie's mindset? That is a... Has that sentence ever been written before?
That's awesome. I just realized that.
That's amazing sourcing. Sources close to Kyrie's mindset. That's like sources close to Doug Gottlieb's stomach tell me he has not eaten lunch. And sources close to his mindset said he's trying to weigh whether or not he orders something or he just goes and gets one of those M-Drive shakes they got that he got before the rest of the public, like trying to figure out which one he wants to do. Sources close to him. Sources close to Kyrie's mindset said that he's not anti-vaccine, that his stance is that he's upset that people are losing their jobs due to the vaccine mandates. To him, it's a grander fight than one on the court. Irving is challenging perceived control of society in people's livelihoods. Okay. Look, it's a fair one-sided argument. The other side to it is, yeah, I get it. People are losing their jobs, but it's really not that hard to get the vaccine and then go to your job. And you know what happens when you get the vaccine? You're far less likely to lose your life. Far more productive to be at work, not have to take as much time off, not have to do as many tests. Like, all of these things are financially beneficial to your employer, which means they're financially beneficial essentially to you. But it does feel like Kyrie is just being a pain in the ass to be a pain in the ass. Right? He's one of those guys, and look, I got a lot of this in me. Being a contrarian for contrarian's sake is, well, it's actually more the norm than the contrarian. It just is. But I love that. What we're saying is no one's actually talked to Kyrie or has any idea what he's actually thinking, but I know kind of what he said, and I'm trying to read between the lines, and that's how this sourcing of the story goes. He's not anti-vaccine. People shouldn't lose their job because they won't get vaccinated. And that, by the way, is part of the greatest plot twist in the history of plot twists, right? Where Republicans are like embracing Kyrie Irving, who does not like the Republican cause, with the exception of like, hey, here's something we can find some common ground on. People shouldn't be mandated to take a vaccine. It sounds like a brave stance, and maybe it is for what he believes in. But again, this is only half the story. This is the problem with politics, is they give you half the story. Half the story is, yeah, with his health, he's probably going to be fine. Probably going to be fine. But it's not about his health. It's not about people losing their jobs. It's about global health and about trying to slow the pace of a pandemic, to get more than 90% of all people vaccinated, and to get all the NFL players. Because, look, when you're in the NFL or you're in the NBA, you're traveling all around the country. It's not the same as even a regular worker. And what Kyrie has to figure out, which I think some have figured out, which is that when you're making that much money, when you're that popular and you have that many of your own shoes and all these things are Kyrie Irving, then asking you to play one basketball game is not all that much. And you even have to play a game. Ric Bucher joins us, Fox Sports 1. He's covered the NBA for years. Rick, who's the guy who is the source close to Kyrie's mindset? I've never heard that one before.
Kyrie?
Yeah, you think that was Kyrie? Okay. How big is this that the Nets have said, like, enough? Either you show up or you don't show up.
Well, the reason is that they were under the impression, it's why you heard Sean Marks going into training camp, expressing confidence that everybody would be on board, they would be getting vaccinated, that there wouldn't be any issues. They'd have everybody. And they were getting the indication that Kyrie was on board with that, along with James Harden, along with Kevin Durant. And Kyrie suddenly, as he has been known to do, he's a little bit like Dory from Finding Nemo, where you think you're going in one direction and suddenly shiny object or changes direction on thought and commitment. He did it in the bubble when everybody was, okay, we're going to play, and he brought it up in a conference call. You know what? Is this really what we should be doing? And created a distraction, a diversion, a change in direction. And so this was ultimately, they thought, okay, he'll come back around to where he was, to where we thought he was originally. And when that wasn't happening, and Harden and KD were of the mind, okay, let's go forward. They're smart enough to know that you can't have a guy just practicing with you, playing in home, certain away games, but not, that just doesn't work. Not if you have a championship or title contention in mind. And so it just got to a point where he wasn't going back to where they originally thought he was, and they said, we just need to move on. Now, I do think there's an element here where they believe that the mandate is not going to stay in place the entire season, and that they might get to a place where he can practice and play and not necessarily be vaccinated. But they've decided in the meantime, we're going forward, and if it's without you, we're good with that.
Where's Ben Simmons play most of the season?
Boy, I not in Philadelphia. I don't, just because he's shown up, I believe that's trying to figure out how can I still get paid. I would be shocked if he actually wears a uniform in a game. I do believe, if it comes to having to practice or show up and work out or whatever it might be, that he's trying to navigate that. But honestly, I don't know, because the teams that are more likely to make a deal for him, a Houston Rockets team, a Minnesota Timberwolves team, it's not none of the title contending teams that I've heard of, or even just the playoff bound teams that I've heard of, are interested in making a deal, or making a deal that would satisfy the Philadelphia 76ers. So, but I wish I could give you a more definitive answer, but this is really, Daryl Morey has set the bar at a certain level for Ben Simmons, and it's an awfully high level. And what he's going to get, or how he's going to reach that, is still a very challenging question.
So it's a very, very fair point. Is there any chance that the Portland deal actually comes to be?
For who?
For either side, for the Sixers. Like, that was proposed, but they asked too much. Do they circle back to that one?
If you're talking about for Damian Lillard or even
for
CJ
CJ McCollum, not for Damian Lillard, I think, right?
I have been told that would not happen. It would not be for CJ McCollum. Now, is there another deal to be made there that would satisfy Philadelphia? And Philadelphia, that would be a reversal on Philadelphia's part. They said, we're not interested in C.J. McCollum. We want Damian Lillard, which is absolutely a price. I mean, that's where all the ridiculousness began. You're not getting Damian Lillard for Ben Simmons. Damian Lillard as a leader of your team, as the face of your franchise. I mean, that's insanity. That the Portland Trailblazers. I'm not even sure it would happen if Damian Lillard said, I don't want to be here anymore. The Portland Trailblazers are not building around Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons is probably as opposite of what Damian Lillard is as you could possibly find for a franchise cornerstone.
It's Doug Gottlieb Show here on Fox Sports Radio. That's the voice of our old friend Ric Bucher. You can see on Fox Sports 1. Okay, Buch. Lakers haven't won a preseason game. I don't think that's a big deal, but a team that we were concerned about their age and injuries, they've already lost Trevor Ariza, right?
Yep.
Who they tried to tell, he's got stuff left in the tank. Boy, it hadn't looked like it. Now he's already hurt for an undefined amount of time. Now Talen Horton-Tucker's out. What are the Lakers going to look like this year?
Boy, I want to give them time. I certainly want to give them time. And in flashes, you can see, boy, there's so much talent there. But the question is, how does it fit together offensively? We've seen glimpses of a play here or there, but I'm going to put all of that to the side offensively. Defensively, they played a Warriors team that was led by Jordan Poole. And while they played fast at the beginning, and the Warriors seemed to be shocked that these old guys were getting up and down the court the way that they did, the Lakers had no answer one-on-one for defending anybody. I mean, it wasn't all the Warriors did was swing the ball and be aggressive attacking the paint, and they were getting open threes. They were getting to the rim. I mean, again, okay, we can say it's early, and the thought was that Frank Vogel did a great job with that team last year defensively, best team in the league in terms of defensive efficiency. But the material that he's working with is vastly different. The mindsets are vastly different. And if anybody thought that Russell Westbrook was going to come there and be a dramatically different player than we've seen the last 3 or 4 years, I don't know about you, Doug, but I haven't seen anything different. I haven't seen anything different in terms of the decision-making. I haven't seen anything different in terms of the shooting. And I haven't seen anything different, especially when it comes to defense. It's not something that people talk about, but he's had a number of knee surgeries.
4.
And to me, it doesn't look like he has the same lateral ability to stay in front of guys defensively that he once had. And that's a big issue when you look at the number of quality scoring point guards that you're going to go up against in the Western Conference.
No question. And they lost, Caruso, who was their best defender, perimeter defender.
Caruso, Dennis Schroeder, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope.
Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. Caruso and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, then Schroeder were, in order, their 3 best perimeter defenders. They're all gone.
Yeah.
And, you're replacing them with not just guys that don't have the same reputation, but you have Malik Monk, who's never played at that level defensively, right, in terms of level of importance. Yep. So you have the young guys and then you have older guys who don't cover anymore. It is fascinating. Does Kawhi play this year?
I believe that he does. Whether it's February or March, I just, from all indications, and he kind of insinuated it, that the reason that he signed the deal that he did was so that he could come back and play this year. Now, a lot of this is the evolution of, how his rehab goes. But this is sort of what the injury that he's dealing with is far more finite or understandable than the one that previously resulted in him leaving in San Antonio and load managing up in Toronto on his way to a championship. And I believe this is one of the things that's really missing with the Clippers and with in general, and Kawhi's perspective on this team in particular. There's a good chemistry on this team. It was built through last season, and it showed up when Kawhi went down and they were still competitive. They added some pieces the year before. Lou Williams and Montrezl Harrell were still there. Like, that was a different dynamic, and I don't think people recognize that this team has really changed. Nicholas Batum saying, why wouldn't I stay, for the minimum? I like this team. I like the role they gave me. Like, I just get that from players across the board. And I think Kawhi recognizes that, and he wants to be a part of that. And they see that they have something that has a chance. Now, Clippers historically have fallen down so many times to say that it's not going to go sideways somehow again. I'm not willing to go there, but I believe that Kawhi sees that they have something unique with the pieces that they have. I think that was proved to him when he was out, and that he very much wants to be a part of that. And as everybody, one of the reasons why everybody still thinks that the Lakers can win the West is because it's wide open. I have to believe that Kawhi sees that, and the Clippers see that as well.
Klay Thompson, any idea what it's going to look like when he comes back and plays?
Oof. I've been telling people this. We've seen guys come back from an ACL. We've seen guys come back from an Achilles tear. We've never seen somebody come back from both. And, we've never seen anybody come back from both, period. To see somebody come back and be exactly what they were before after missing 2 years, now into his 30s. Like, look, his shooting is not going to change. He's going to give you that. And with Jordan Poole emerging, like, there's a possibility that they can take a little bit off of Klay's plate. But if you're expecting him to come back and be the two-way two-guard that he was next to Steph, I don't know that that's realistic. Like, can he be the defender that he was before? Because for me, he was arguably the best two-way two-guard in the league the last time we saw him. And in talking to people around him, like when I tried to get to the question you just asked, like, they're very quiet. They do not want to put any expectations on what he's going to be back. The Warriors fans, I can tell you, being in the Bay Area, they're all like, when Klay comes back, we're just like, in their minds, Klay's going to come back and be exactly the same Klay he was when he left. The people that are close to him are like,
we'll see.
You know, they need to walk this carefully, because on his way back, I mean, people forget this. It was on his way back from the previous injury that he suffered the last one. The great fear is, how do we get him back to playing again and not suffer a third major injury?
It's a great point. Bucher, can't wait till the season starts. Love having you on. Can we do this again sometime soon? Appreciate you being our guest.
You got it.